Dear that one person or whoever that keeps copyright claiming my Jurassic Park reviews, here's a little note for you that I hope makes you reconsider what you are doing. I've paid for your movies and I'm fairly reviewing them. I am adding something new by criticizing your movies and adding perspective to them, which I think is an interesting one. I'm using clips on YouTube or from a movie, which, yeah, some of those clips are a bit long, yes, but only like half a minute at most. Some people uploaded whole scenes that are minutes long, but somehow they are still up, and even if you want to say they're copyright claimed, my Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom review, both versions of them at some point, were blocked worldwide, and one still is, so fuck that logic as it isn't solid. I'd recommend releasing those disputes as your company has a history of constantly doing this so my work doesn't go to waste. Just like how you think I'm unfairly using your clips and media in my review, you would be unfairly getting all the money I would be making even though you don't own it. Technically, by doing so that means you think you own my review, which you don't, which probably isn't legal and is a way what you think I'm doing. So yeah, not very smart, and I'd recommend you fuck off with those power claims and any upcoming ones. Thank you, from Unknownflickz, from the YouTuber. So let's get into the movie, Jurassic World, not Jurassic World, I'll get to that one soon. Jurassic Park Lost World, or The Lost World Jurassic Park, whichever way you want to say it. It's a fine movie. I went to thinking, for a little while I thought this was a great movie, then thought it was pretty good, but now I've kind of settled on it just being alright, the same level as Jurassic Park 3. It's enjoyable, but it's got some shit that just doesn't make any sense and just isn't as good as the first one. It's not as smart or as intelligent. It's still got good stuff, which we'll get into basically right now. The film starts with a view of Isla Sorna, the second island, even though I thought all the dinos were bred and raised on Isla Nublar, but alright, maybe Hammond never wanted to reveal it yet, I guess. Also, what's that on top of the island? A dinosaur? What is that? I always wondered what it is ever since I first saw this movie, probably, or just early into my childhood. We got to a British family on an island's beaches along with some others, and the daughter wanders off and finds a companion in the form of a copy. She tries to give it her sandwich, or more part of it, like part of the meat, but that backfires when multiple arrive, now wanting more than a sandwich. She gets hurt off screen, and as the others run towards her, the mother screams as we cut to Jeff Goldblum yawning, mimicking her yelling in a way, with the sound of the subway screeching to a halt. Very cool scene, I must admit. Also, the girl is okay. Hammond reveals that later. He gets on the subway, and this man who's listed in IMDb as Curious Man talks to him after he recognizes him. This guy is played by Ross Partridge, who is in Stranger Things and Don't Look Up, among other things, obviously. I think there's another person in this movie that's listed as an Indian worker who's in, like, a Tom Cruise movie and quite a few other things. I'll probably add it in like, post. He makes fun of him because his reputation has been ruined since nobody believed his account in Jurassic Park because he signed this non-disclosure agreement. He gets summoned to Hammond's estate where he meets Tim and Lex, but older, played by the same actors, which is cool. If only they could have included Alan and Ellie in this film, but we have Jurassic Park 3 for that. I still wish they were in this film. It would be kind of cool to see how they react, That'd still be kind of interesting. Instead, we get stuck with Malcolm, who's not bad, just, I don't know, prefer Alan and Ellie, or at least all three of them, maybe. He sees Peter Ludlow, who's unfortunately a bit of a generic, but not a shitty villain. At least Eli was a bit more interesting with some of his dialogue, so yeah, this guy kind of suffers from just being meh. Like, at least Dennis Nedry was actually kind of funny and, like, had some cool lines that built his character. So it kind of feels like we just went in thinking, like, Steven Spielberg went in thinking this would be a great film and just slam dunk and just didn't really care. The two, along with this guy making Peter sign stuff, get into a confusing near convo unless you have subtitles or have watched this film a bunch of times. I've done both. But it explains what I said earlier about his reputation. Ludlow tried to twist the facts of the three deaths Nedry they wouldn't know or care that much, as he was a scumbag, which explains their disdain for each other, including Ludlow trying to pay him off. He meets Hammond, who, as he said, has changed from a capitalist to a naturalist in 4 years. Hammond talks about Sorna and how the dinos are roaming free, and how he wants Malcolm to go there to show the dinos are in fact good to save their public image, so Engine doesn't take over, and eventually gets him to go there when he learns his girlfriend is already there because he left to go to the island, which leaves him going to this large area where the trucks and vehicles used for their ship are being made. So far, a pretty good setup, similar in a way to the first to be exact. Both start with an incident on the island leading to some skepticism about the whole affair, and Hammond tries to get some people on the island, basically, agree that it's all going well, that the dinos are cool and everything is a-okay. Yet one might think that's bad, this setup being similar, but it's unique enough to have some similarities, but it's the best parts of the setup, the very basic, convincing idea that could work for a first film and a sequel really well, which these films do. This film is still different enough with Malcolm just returning, or just him returning, among other things. We meet his daughter Kelly, who's annoyed he keeps leaving and never properly parents him, and he hires a nice fellow who will surely survive, or if not have a long death that's prolonged and, very painful for him. And Nick Van Owen, who's a bit of a preservation guy who loves women. I'm being serious. They set up the vehicles in the very cool hide where you hide. Hi. Kelly sneaks onto the trailer, or is it an RV? I'm gonna call it a trailer. And she apparently hides there and doesn't get caught, so that's a bit weird. They get on a boat and Nick and Malcolm talk to these two who won't get that close to the islands because they're called the Five Deaths, or Los Cinco Muertos. They get on the island and the vehicles start moving to an area where they try looking for Sarah Harding, who is the one who left and is Malcolm's girlfriend. I don't know why I wrote that in the script. I don't think Hammond has a girlfriend, no. I think he had a wife. Or no. I'm not sure if they were getting split up, or I think it was Hammond's son or daughter that was getting a divorce in the movie, like the first one. Either way, they find some stegos in another cool panning away shot that shows that Spielberg is still great at what he does, even the sequels that he doesn't like. They find Sarah, who talks to them about how some dinos stay long after birth and act like a family, so clearly she knows a lot, so she totally won't make bizarre choices. She actually will. She pisses off a baby stego and gets the others to nearly kill her, but they just leave, which does make sense. It's like Jurassic Park where this T-Rex stopped chasing the car. It's got better things to do, like find food and live its life. They aren't monsters. That's for Jurassic Park 3 through Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom to do. Get back near the trailer and see Kelly making some food, so yeah. Nobody found her. That's, hard to believe. Like, how? He gets mad, but Sarah defends her and her curiosity because of him, you know, like, oh, where'd you get it from? Where do you think she got it from? They argue for a bit before seeing some helicopters, which always weirdly look like toys to me, but they're probably miniatures on set, so that's maybe why. I don't know for sure. Maybe I'll see some, like, behind-the-scenes documentary. Maybe I'll get my answer. Either way, it's the InGen peoples. They land and drive through an open area where we meet Ludlow again and meet Roland Tembo, who is slightly like Robert Muldoon, but possibly cooler, I'm not sure. He's here for one thing and one thing only, to bag a T-Rex, or, you know, trinket. We then meet some people, more people, like Robert Burke, who talks about a Pachycephalosaurus with its 9-inch dome, and some others start capturing dinos, and we meet Peter Stark, who's played by Peter Stormare, interesting role, I guess, who's basically a psychopath as he electroprods a compy after knowing it's not afraid of him, as they've never seen a human. Yeah, he's dead meat. Also, Burke says how compies are not dangerous, so, did he not hear about the girl getting bitten by several of them? That's a bit odd, since I thought it kind of kickstarted this whole movie's plot. Roland and this character Ajay, who earlier had a cutscene, as in like a scene that was cut, introducing them, find the baby T-Rex and talk about it. So maybe that means they capture it in an attempt to get the T-Rexes to go where they want to. It cries out because of being captured and because of its broken leg, and the main characters stumble across this whole camp area set up with cameras and TVs and cages and more as they are attempting to break the dinos out. And the scene in this whole movie is a bit weird to watch once you see the third one. Like, where's the Spino? It might have been a baby, but in this movie's, in the, like, third movie, it's huge. Like, T-Rex from Jurassic Park 1, huge, but I guess since she was 5 when that first one started, so maybe this genetic hybrid Spino thing being 4 is reasonable. It's just bizarre. Like, imagine stumbled across the camp, that'd actually be kind of cool. Although some sources say it's 2 years old when Jurassic Park 3 starts, so that's a little less believable. But I guess, you know, it's a whole genetic hybrid, so I guess. Ludlow has to call some board of executive people about a San Diego Jurassic Park that has been in construction for a while that Hammond actually planned for originally. Since the dinos are released by Nick and the others, it doesn't last long before shit hits the fan and dinos just barge into the town without any noise or anyone, you know, else being attacked. Like, there must have been some people who noticed it earlier that weren't in the camp or, like, in a tent area. Are they just quiet? An exploding jeep nearly kills Roland and Ajay, and he gets annoyed with Dieter, saying it's the last time he leaves him in charge. You know, he could just say that they were sabotaged, but I guess he does later learn that. Nick Van Owen gets the baby T-Rex to the trailer, which is also parked next to a cliff, might I add, so that's already a stupid move. So bringing in a bleeding baby T-Rex is the icing on the idiocy cake, and somehow Sarah is okay with this? You do know how they get about family. You literally talked about it like 20 to 25 minutes ago in the movie. Malcolm gets there along with Kelly, but she leaves to go to the high-eyed with Malcolm, but he also leaves this time back to the trailer when he sees what he presumes are the parents to get the others out. But one of the jeeps gets flung as the 2 T-Rexes emerge in a cool moment, basically showing how this is a true sequel, upping the ante with more dinos, or more T-Rexes at least, although more dinos, because he had a bigger budget. Although only by 10 million, but they included like a lot more dinos, but I guess since there's not many fences here, they, you know, could spend more budget on the dinosaurs. Like the first one, which had a bunch of buildings, I guess. But this still had buildings. Either way, they try to give the baby back, but they knock the trailer over when it starts falling over the cliff, and we get possibly the best scene in the movie, and probably top 5 of the franchise, where Sarah falls onto the glass and needs to be saved. Eddie Carr also joins in with his jeep, trying to rev the jeep and pull the trailer back up, which he does do up until the T-Rexes come back to fuck shit up. And now here's a death that's interesting. So when people complain about Zara's death, some people bring this up as a refute of a good person dying brutally, but here's the problem. This was the T-Rex is mostly breaking the car apart. Once they get to him, they make his death painful, unfortunately, but still rather short. Still somewhat long, but still rather short as well. Not like Zara, who gets nearly a minute of being thrown around and dunked before dying brutally. It's not the same. The Jeep falls and so does the trailer, but since they have a rope, everything is fine as the engine group finds him. So overall, pretty great scene. Yeah, the setup does make sense, but it's multiple minutes of non-stop action and thrills, showcasing the dinosaurs as parents just trying to get their baby back and being safe. Not being dinosaurs, so and that's a pretty cool part as well. While tensions are high, they do agree on one thing: to get the hell out of here, and to do so safely, they need to go to a communication center and get help from communicating. Nick Van Allen and Roland Timbo talk about stuff while walking with Roland, mentioning how somewhere on this island the greatest predator lives, and how the second greatest predator must take him down in a really cool line that feels like something for a trailer, which probably was, but it's still a cool line. Or maybe it's just written and it ended up being a really cool line. Kind of like how American Psycho is just so memeable with all those memes and all those lines. Honestly, I gotta see that movie. It looks really good. Malcolm and Peter Ludlow talk where he does express sympathy for Eddie's death, making him a slightly better person, so not a complete scumbag, so that's nice. Somehow Sarah hasn't washed off her jacket of stained blood, which is, not super smart at all. Also, everyone takes a break, and Dieter leaves with this guy named Carter to watch over, but guess what he doesn't do? Dieter gets lost after falling because of this attempt to further harass a copy, which leads to this very cool scene of these copies following him but running away whenever he looks back or stopping. Like when he runs toward them, they run back. But eventually they decide to swarm him, and he goes past a log where he dies with actual blood, which is somewhat rare for the newer films to an extent, mainly Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, as Jurassic World was actually pretty decently bloody. Same thing with the Jurassic Park trilogy. Not like super duper bloody, but still. This whole scene is great and really adds to the darker tone of this film. While it does primarily take place at night, in general, the content of the film is more graphic as it's people stuck on a dangerous island waiting to kill you. I think both this and Jurassic Park 3 do this well, but Jurassic Park 3 doesn't have any deaths for the second half besides Udesky really early on in the second half, which is the opposite of this film in Jurassic Park, because they wait till the hour mark. And hell, even Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom does that. This whole island is infested with dinos just ready to kill you or make your day worse. And it makes these films easier rewatches than maybe even the original, possibly. It's cooler to an extent, and the feel this film and Jurassic Park 3 has is unmatched, or if it is matched, only rarely. Still, Jurassic Park rocks, but I do kind of prefer this one. Not in terms of quality, as it's a step down, but on rewatches, it's just more entertaining. The group eventually realizes that Dieter's missing, presumed dead, because, Los Cinco's Muertas. They all start sleeping until the T-Rex comes, because again, Sarah did not wash her jacket off. Isn't she supposed to be, smart, not stupid? Carter yells, which makes everyone run scared as the T-Rex splashes around with her head still in the tent.
Don't move! Don't move! Don't run!
See, now this is what I like. He actually remembered what Grant said in the first for him not to move, which he ignored at first, leading to Donald's death and him being hurt, and in the book actually dying, well, to an extent. I've heard that the sequel, The Lost World, which I read a bit about, is more a sequel to the first film than a sequel to the first book, because he technically died in that first book, I guess. Either way, so while his character might be a bit too different for some, I like this moment. Honestly, I don't hate his character progression, as it mostly fits. He nearly died a few times, lost his credibility, and now is in more danger and witnessed Eddie Carr's death. Someone who's helping him, and stuck on an island with no fences. Not even non-working fences, just no fences, and a fuck ton of dinosaurs that are crazy dangerous. It's safe to say almost everyone would be like him, a cynical, cold person. Although this seems to almost start a stereotype for blockbusters now, mostly them being cold or distant to the situation, but adding in some jokes that no one would say. So maybe this helped kickstart that trend, and if so, that sucks, but hey, at least here it makes sense, Like that whole stereotype where people are kind of like distant from the situation, like they're not actually scared. It's like an actual movie, so it kind of ruins the immersion. But, whatever. Roland tries to bag the T-Rex, but he's sabotaged by Nick, who put actual bullets, even though, couldn't that still kill it if he shot it in the head? Real smart move, Nick. How about leaving nothing in her, just leaving it alone? But because of the sabotage, Carter gets stopped on, people get chased, and somehow don't get eaten. Like, at least the video game had them knocked aside, which would be their version of death, because it's a kid's game. And wherever Bert gets eaten after Snake gets in his jacket. Which reminds me of the whole Snake my boot thing. But whatever, Roland does get one of the T-Rex is not sure which it is, as they look the same, which isn't bad, because the design is very cool, but, hey, they still got their plan done, although, Nick, you did get 2 people killed, or maybe more. I'll get to that. A bunch of people run through the long grass, despite Audrey telling him not to, but I guess he dies since we never see him, as everyone gets attacked and or killed by the raptors in the long grass in a very cool scene. Nick gets to the communication center and successfully, communicates. The other 3 get to the Indian worker village, which I wish had the Carnotaur scene, but I'll get to that in a bit after the film ends. Or, like, just later. They get attacked by some tiger-striped raptors. Malcolm faces off against one and eventually gets cornered by one, only for Kelly to surprise it, then kick it in a silly moment, which does bug me a bit. The thing weighs quite a bit, so it's a bit weird that she can kill it, although I guess it was probably surprised and confused. But I'm still a bit weird. Throughout all this, Sarah's been separated and is about to be killed by a raptor when another one joins in and fights, where she conveniently falls to where Malcolm and Kelly are and get in this helicopter leaving the island, which just feels way too much like Jurassic Park, with a moment where you think somebody's truly fucked, then another dinosaur enters and fights another one, and they get away in a helicopter. It's not shit, but unlike this movie setup, it feels way too forced and obvious. Either way, let's try and wrap it up about as quickly as the film does its third act. You see one of the T-Rex is tranked and Roland leaves because, Audrey's death, among other things, like, everything that's happened. Or Nick Van Owen marvels at the chaos it caused with misplacing Tranks. If you think about it, him and Sarah got almost everyone here killed besides Dieter. Eddie died because they brought the T-Rex in the trailer. Carter died because he couldn't trank the T-Rex and he came there because of Sarah not washing her jacket despite the streams of water in the river in Jurassic Park 3. But hey, I guess continuity ain't a strong suit for the series. Burke died because of that T-Rex coming and getting agitated, and the rest dying from velociraptors was because they were chased away if you think about it. Our protagonists, ladies and gentlemen, these are our protagonists. It seems like Malcolm is smart in this movie just because everyone else is so fucking moronic. We then transition to a late third act in San Diego. Seriously guys, it's 1 hour and 40 minutes into a 2-hour 8-minute movie, including credits. You got like 20 minutes. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom repeated this problem, not with the auction, because that was actually set up earlier, but the interrupter getting loose. They should have had the film end with more dinos going to the mainland on boats automatically set to sail, like they got, going. I know that might be crazy for, 1997, but hey, look at the high-tech stuff in Jurassic World, so, yeah. Look at that. That's a bit crazy. But, they could have had that, but the people on the boat are killed, and the dinos get loose, so they're just kind of waiting on the boat, and there's, more people, biosyn and other stuff that could have been set up, them making more dinosaurs. So maybe there's a first wave of dinosaurs, and after a bit, there's a second wave of more dinosaurs taking out the military, along with, people actually taking out the military. So, in Jurassic Park 3, they get on the mainland, and we have a nice conclusion to this trilogy, and it's, maybe well done. You could have a pterosaur scene, a carnotaur scene, in the book, with them camouflaging, a scene with our herbivore causing chaos and actually killing people for a change, and then setting Jurassic Park 3 on the mainland up. It's not that hard. Instead, we get velociraptors and T-Rexes again being the main threat bar copy scene. Come on, dinos are cool. These dinos are cool, but still. As it is right now, there's only 30 minutes of people getting picked off on this dangerous island instead of 50 or more. Also, it's still night. Or did they travel for a whole 24 hours? I kind of doubt it, since an airplane flight would be nearly 6 hours. I mean, maybe they got on the helicopter at 9 or 10 and it's close to 5, but it's still hella dark out, so it's weird. Maybe they left, maybe it got super duper dark super duper quickly, I guess. I don't know. I guess time zones, I guess. We see Ludlow and the others talking to this large group of people about the San Diego project before being told that the boat isn't slowing down and it crashes into the dock, which probably killed all those people in that building because I don't see many get out, so, yeah.
Oh my god. Where's the crew? All over the place.
Except you only see 3 dead people, so was this a skeleton crew for a shipment of this caliber? Bullshit. The T-Rex gets released and wreaks some havoc by going into this bus, eating David Culp on the writers of this movie, and I think the previous one, and going into this backyard and kind of fucking shit up. Malcolm and Sarah, just them, not Nick, because he's gone, and same with Kelly, but Nick's an adult, so it's even weirder, and a contributing member of the plot, very contributing in a weird way, getting those people killed, get the baby T-Rex and lure the larger T-Rex to where they want to go, back on the ship. Peter Ludlow gets on there and still tries to continue with this mad plan that's obviously failed before the bigger T-Rex comes, and helps the baby kill him for good. Sarah tranks the T-Rex and they send it back on the ship to Sworn with Hammond saying how they must step aside and let nature do its thing. And the film ends with the 3 T-Rexes living happily ever after, and some pterosaurs not in bird cages, which totally won't get out. I'm actually being serious despite the way I said it. They won't, and are never seen again, because the ones in Jurassic Park 3 got teeth and are in a bird cage. And in Jurassic World, they're more red and bigger and can break through buildings somehow, so, yeah, that's weird. And that was Lost World Jurassic Park. A fine but disappointing sequel to a classic. It's not a shit movie by any means, but it's only more and bigger, how sequels are usually supposed to be more, bigger, better. It's just more and bigger. It's not really better, because there's still a bunch of moments that don't make sense, and the characters aren't really that developed. They're not bad, but it seems like once shit hits the fan, they don't really continue developing the characters that much. Like, it seems like they start to develop the characters, then completely forgot about actually giving them something to do. And the third act is just pretty rushed. I really wish they saved that for the Jurassic Park 3 movie, you know, like the third one. But instead, we get returning back to Sorna, which is still cool, but yeah. I went into this movie thinking it's also, like, the only sequel in this trilogy, although there's only two, because that's how it worked, 3 movies, and there'll only be 2 sequels, that actually felt like a genuine story that changed stuff, but not really. It feels like it just returns to the status quo. Like, it might be like, oh, the San Diego incident, but I don't really think they ever mention that bar Jurassic Park 3, but the newer movies kind of forget that movie and just kind of ignore it, so honestly, it feels like not that much have changed. There's a few new characters, but they died. The only returning character lived. Well, the only 2 returning characters lived, but I guess Hammond died shortly after, but still not between these movies. Not between. But yeah, it's entertaining. It only feels bigger because there's a genuine bigger cast of people, or at least, yeah, there's a lot of people in Jurassic Park, but a lot of them leave. But here there's like 40, 50 people, if not more, so I guess that's it. It is pretty entertaining, and when people do get picked off on the island, it is cool, but I wish more dinosaurs were killing off people, like different ones, like Carnotauruses, pterosaurs, maybe even a mosasaurus, like a sea creature, like a plesiosaur or elasmosaurus, or like a herbivore, like a stegosaurus, or a triceratops, or a Pachycephalosaurus, Dracorex, Corythosaurus, Parasaurolophus, Mamenchisaurus, which is in it for a cool moment. But yeah, it's still an entertaining movie, but it just lacks the intelligence and wit. It feels like an average blockbuster. It's entertaining, but it doesn't really do that much interesting. It just kind of feels like, oh, hey, it's an entertaining movie. You can see this is where they kind of lost the interest to be like a genuine smart movie, and like just instead be something like the average blockbuster, and that's why it just doesn't really hold up as much when you look at the previous one. This is what started the downward spiral in this series. Yeah, this and Jurassic Park 3 aren't bad, they're just fine though. They're perfectly calculated blockbusters that are entertaining. And then you got Jurassic World, which is bad. I mean, they had some good ideas, some good stuff, but it's just bad, and that also feels very forgettable. And then you got Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which is just worse. Like, they continue just being blockbusters with occasional interesting ideas, but this is what kind of started it. Like, these movies just took a steep decline in quality. And with the third one, it's kind of like the same amount of quality, but then the fourth one, it drops by a bit, and then by the fifth one, it drops by a bit. And I'm not really sure about the new one. So, yeah, that's a kind of depressing. Like, these movies just kind of feel like, this one's an entertaining movie, but it just ends up feeling forgettable. Like, this is the average blockbuster, and it kind of shows why maybe Jurassic Park was best left alone as one movie.
Am I saying it right?